Welcome to Marketing Tip Tea Time, where it's our mission to make marketing accessible to anyone. And we're going to enjoy some fantastic tea today, and we are going to have some fantastic tips from our fourth guest of this season, Soon Hee Newbold, who has been on our show now. This will be the second time. She is a fantastic woman with lots of great advice, and I just cannot wait to dive in with her. But first, let's bring up our sponsor for this season, Whole Brain Consulting. Whole Brain Consulting is an outsourced operations consultancy that specializes in the consumer products industry, providing solutions catered to your production. Services include QA, QC, supply chain, operations, logistics, R&D, and private equity due diligence. Thank you so much, Whole Brain Consulting. And now I am going to start to introduce Soon Hee Newbold. She is a well-known violinist performing at venues such as Carnegie Hall, the Kennedy Center, and Tanglewood. She is also a well-known composer with over 60 pieces for orchestra, many of which are J.W. Pepper Editor's Choice and Basic Library selections. Soon Hee has also been a music editor and a longtime composer for FJH Music Company. In addition, Soon Hee is a director, producer, and actress in many films. We are here to introduce Soon Hee Newbold. Thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
We are, wow, I'm just so excited. So for those of you who don't know, Soon Hee has done wonders for Marketing Tip Tea Time. She has actually introduced us to many of the amazing talent that we've had on the show, and she has really helped to kick us off. She's been sharing and liking and engaging. So I really thank you so much, Soon Hee. It's been a pleasure working with you.
Well, it's been an honor, and I think you guys are doing some great, wonderful things out there. And so it was a no-brainer to just introduce you to some of my friends.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. Before we dive into our questions for you, we're actually going to dive into the most important part, which is the tea. Soon Hee wanted us to get Tea Forte, Warming Joy, and there are actually 5 selections of tea in this gift set. Look at how beautiful this presentation is. Look at that. Isn't that fantastic? Oh my gosh. So I'm going to go ahead. You had said that you wanted cherry marzipan, correct?
Yeah, right. I thought that would be a good one to try.
I'm going to go ahead and open that real quick. And let's see here. I've got my handy dandy. All right. Oh, the smell. My gosh, it's amazing. Okay, so now this is actually more complicated than I expected. Wow. Does everybody watch? Wow. Okay. So it comes in this little pyramid here with a tea leaf, and it smells amazing. Sorry, I didn't know how to actually open the the package, so that took a little longer than it was supposed to. Let me.
Yes, I originally got this tea as a gift from my good friend Brian Brown Mages, who's also a very well-known composer.
Let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and try this. I might need to steep for a little bit, but let me get it going. I'll taste this throughout the show so that everybody knows. And I just lost my audio. Hold on one second, everyone. I think I got another one here. It'll be fine. Okay. Hello, everyone. I think we're back. Okay. So is there a specific reason that you chose this tea here?
I did. It was originally a gift from a good friend, and I just loved the packaging and the kind of the unique combinations. I think it's just a really cute way to be able to entertain people, and I love the name. As a musician, it's just everything about it was everything.
Yes, that is a great name. I didn't even make that connection. Wow, yeah. Look how beautiful these are, everyone. Look at this. My gosh. Okay. It is a fantastic tasting tea as well. And you said that this is kind of your go-to, right?
Especially for entertaining, just because the packaging is so nice and there's so many
Yeah.
varieties and combinations that everybody has something that they find that they like. And it's also a good thank you gift when if I go on a trip or something, I'll send it to people, and it's a nice kind of classy gift. And overall, I don't have anything bad to say about it. I like everything about them.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I really, really, really like it. We're going to have more Tea Forte on the show for anyone watching. And that reminds me, if you are watching, please wave so that Soon Hee and I can see you. Josh French, who's in the studio, thank you for waving. Kirk Vogel, thank you also for giving us a shout out. You can also comment if you have questions and we have time. We will look through the comments and try and get those going. Another thing, please like and share this video, and we are going to randomly select somebody who's liked and shared this video, and we are going to send you this gift set for the holidays. So please like and share our video, and you could be chosen to take home a Tea Forte Warming Joy gift box. Yeah, it's gonna be great. All right, I'm gonna dive on in to our questions. So we're going to do a rapid fire sequence, which is a little bit different than the last time you were on the show, where I'm going to ask you, this or that, or maybe this or that, and then you choose the one that you like the most. So, Twitter or Instagram?
Instagram.
Mm-hmm. Apple or Android?
Apple.
Apple. You hear that, Josh? She chose Apple. All right, sorry. Sibelius, Finale, or Dorico?
Finale.
Okay, and that was actually a question that Peter wanted answered as well, Peter Romero. Acting, producing, or composing?
Ooh, acting.
Acting, really? Oh, wow. That's actually a little surprising to me. My gosh. And is there a reason that you like acting?
Oh, I've always enjoyed it. I think directing acting is probably my top passion. I love anything creative, but it's just, I think with acting, you can dive in and just be a lot of different characters and do a lot of things, kind of, it's just, there's no limit, I guess, is the point of it all. And it's fun to kind of dive in and pretend to be in a different world, I think.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, and so question, though it's not on here, do you have a method that you use to get into your role, to get into the mind of the character that you're going to be portraying?
I do a lot of research, a lot of psychological research, a lot of like character kind of history, that kind of thing. Just so you're consistent, so you can be a natural. I'm not a method actor so
Right.
much. I don't. If I need to speak in a British accent, I'm not going to speak in a British accent for months. But some people do that, and it's a
Right.
very it's a very effective way to do it. And some people are brilliant actors out there that do that. So whatever, and I also try to experience as much as I can what the actor would be going through, within reason. So if they're, I don't know, if they're kind of a diehard, medical professional or something, then I would try to dive in and at least experience as much as I could, or at least talk to experts and just kind of experience and perform myself so I can make it as real as possible.
Right. Right. And is there a difference then and I'm not sure if you've acted in any roles where it's more of a real life or like a documentary type, but is there a difference when you're given maybe a lot of direction where it might have been a real person or a character in a book versus something that's kind of come out new with a script that doesn't have a lot of background?
Well, I think the process is similar. I think if you're playing like a well-known person that's a historical real life figure, I think you're going to have a lot more people that are going to know that person or be familiar. So I think sometimes it's a little bit more pressure, I think, to try to, but you have to make it organic. When they talk about actors, you don't want to do a caricature or you don't want to act like the person. You want to be that person, if that makes sense. So it's a little subtle
Yeah.
nuance, but that's kind of the big thing between what actors do. And at the same time, they make it their own. So even if they're playing a real life person, they're still going to put elements of themselves in it that make it their own. So they're not necessarily trying to pretend to be somebody else. They're actually coming at it from a real organic place.
Right. Okay. So that's really important to be more organic and less and more authentic and less, I guess, like really, like you said, a caricature, trying to really, make it bigger than it needs to be. That's very interesting. So, you said that you love being artistic and being creative, and you love that process. Can you tell us a little bit about your early influences and how that molded your artistic style today?
My influences definitely have been mostly music. I was adopted when I was, a baby, and my parents were athletes. They also worked in the deaf community, so I grew up in the deaf community, learned sign language before I could speak. But
Oh, wow.
they knew that my biological family were musicians and music, and so they knew I had an ear for it, and so that's how they got me to be in piano and violin at an early age, and just it was something that I took to. So I just competed and performed, and it was just kind of a natural thing that that we kind of just grew from there. So those are my big influences, probably music for the creative part of it. But I always loved making up stories and being in plays and doing drama and stuff like that. So I think I always had I don't know, an aptitude for it or a desire. And
Right.
then, of course, my biggest influences were the composers, the great composers like Mozart, Brahms, Vivaldi, were probably the big ones in the beginning.
Oh, Vivaldi. Oh yeah, I'm a fan of Vivaldi and Papa Haydn. Yep. I'm a fan of Haydn. So, that's great that you were exposed to those types of things and that you were able to, get into violin lessons and get into really those different cultural areas of music that influenced you. So, um, that is important, I think, for anyone watching, is to just kind of expose yourself, I think, is kind of maybe one of the themes, and experience lots of different things. Which brings me to my next question. You do a lot, you've experienced a lot, you're involved in seemingly an impossible number of activities daily. The average person looks at you and wonders, how the heck do you do all of this stuff? Can you dive into some of your time management tactics to be able to keep on top of everything you do? And this is from my wife, Alyssa,
So,
who asks this, by the way. So,
and that's a very, very valid and wise question. And I have two thoughts about that. Number one, I think people can do a whole lot more than they think they can. So I think it's always important to just push, and try to, because you won't grow unless you're pushing yourself and challenging yourself more. So that's number one. Number two, there is that phrase, jack of all trades, master of none. And that is true. So that is something you have to watch out for. I think it's just it's an ongoing challenge for me, definitely, to juggle and make sure that my priorities are staying where they should. But number one, I
right,
I don't try to do everything all at the same time. So that's number one. I think I was taught to do everything to the best of my ability. Always put your 100% effort into it, whether you're being paid, whether it's the president, whether you're playing for someone on the street, just always putting your best all the time. And so for me, that means that whatever I'm working on, that is going to take 100% of my focus. So I'm not going to try to do a film and do a composition at the same time. It's dependent on what I'm working on, what project I'm doing. So if I'm on a film set, that's taking all of my focus, all of my energy, 100% of my time. And then when I'm doing a composition, I, push everything else out of the way. So it's just juggling which one is kind of coming up in deadlines or what scheduling, has
okay,
in store. So it's all that kind of stuff. So it's an ongoing juggle for me.
right.
But
And is there
um,
is there a way that you organize it so that you can juggle effectively?
well, it's lots of organization, definitely. And sometimes, especially with the creative process, it's kind of an unknown. So you don't always know
Mm,
when it's going to hit or when it's going to finish. So sometimes that's the kind of the question mark, and sometimes I'll get a little overwhelmed. But so I'll try to. You're always reevaluating. You're having to just figure out what your biggest priority is at the time, and just kind of try not to let writer's block or frustration or stress get in the way. And then you're
right.
just I'm looking at my calendar a lot, trying to, ink out every minute about what I should be doing, just so I make sure that, things get done on time.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. So it's all about really that organization and making sure that you really take a step back and look at how much you can actually accomplish and not get overwhelmed by thinking, oh, look at all the things I have to do, but saying, okay, now how can I put them in their spots and kind of compartmentalize in a sense.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Wow. That that is some so for any students listening in, this is important, I think, if you're a student. Um, yeah, that seems really important to be able because they're juggling so many classes and so many things when you're a student. So that is some great advice. I'm gonna go ahead and pivot a little bit to some questions from somebody very near and dear to my heart, Mr. Kirk Vogel, who was my choir director in middle school. He is a regionally successful composer, but he's trying to branch out a little bit more, kind of on a national scale. So he has a few really interesting questions that I want to dive into. First of all, he asks, there are inherent pros and cons of selling your music through a publisher or self-publishing. Is there a way to do both of those successfully? And if yes, how? And if no, then why not? Kind of a three-parter.
Yes. Yes, you can do both successfully, and at the same time. It really just depends on what kind of relationship you have with the publishers. For now, if you're just starting out, you can submit to lots of different publishers and you don't have to just be with one. You can have pieces published with, many, many different publishers. Some may want to grab you and say, look, we want an exclusive contract with you. And so all the stuff that you're going to write is going to come through us first. So it just depends on the contract and kind of the relationship you develop. And as far as self-publishing goes, yes, you can be successful, and it's you obviously own 100% of the copyright. Whereas if you're with a publisher, they own it, and you get 10% of the royalties. So that's a big surprise to a lot of people. They don't realize that the writers don't own their work anymore when you go with a publisher. But the publisher does take on a lot of overhead. They are doing all the marketing kind of worldwide. It's kind of one of those things. 100% of zero is still going to be zero, so you have to juggle what's going to be more important. I At this point, my name is out there. I could self-publish and probably do fine. But in the beginning, I would not be having music played all around the world at this time in my life if I didn't have a publisher. So with technology, things have changed a little bit. The model for publishing has changed. So everyone's trying to evolve and keep up. So that makes it easier to self-publish because of technology. And there's some companies like Pepper who do distribution deals and stuff like that. So it's easier for
Okay.
self-writers to kind of get out there. But the publishers are also trying to evolve too and trying to, keep up with the market and what's going on and the changes and kind of the online stuff and digital music and all that kind of stuff too. So everybody's I think, trying to figure out what the next step is going to
Okay.
be.
So essentially, if you really just want to focus on the creative part, write your music, and not have to worry about logistics, distribution, marketing, current trends in the market, then you should go with the publisher because then they will take care of that for you, essentially.
Definitely. If you want to be more widespread, worldwide, that kind of thing, they're the ones that are going to all these trade shows and stuff like that. And those exhibits are expensive. And I think a lot of writers don't understand, they don't really think about the whole gamma of stuff that they're actually going to have to put out as far as money goes in order to get their pieces out there. Now, if you're just looking to,
Right.
send it to a couple schools or send a couple orchestras and that's good enough for you, then that's fine. But there are people that are self-publishing, especially people that can't get in with a publisher. And there's many reasons why a publisher may not take your work. It doesn't mean that you're not a good writer. Sometimes it's just space. Sometimes it's timing. So if they're unable
Okay.
to get with a publisher, then they'll go self-publishing, and they'll be able to start out doing that.
Okay. And that leads straight into our next question, which is what do you do with a composition that is passed up by your publisher or publishers?
Well, number one, don't give up. Sometimes they may take it another times. Try to get a reason why they're not taking it. If they have something in their catalog that's too similar to it, then they don't want to compete against themselves. So let's say you're doing an arrangement of Rudolph or something like that, and they have 20 arrangements of it already. they may not want to take it, even if it's brilliant.
Okay.
So then I would suggest, submitting to other publishers and seeing if another publisher would be interested. And at the very end of the day, if you can't get published and you've tried a couple times, throughout the years, then you can always self-publish.
That is some great advice. Mr. Vogel, that was for you, if you're listening. I actually just poured a little bit more tea. This is delicious, Soon Hee. This is amazing tea. Now that it's steeped, the flavors are really coming through. So anybody watching, Tea Forte, this could possibly be one of my favorite teas we've had on so far. It's that good, Josh. Yeah, he's looking at me in the studio here. Well, that is some great advice, I think, for anybody trying to publish. I know that there are a lot of students, there are a lot of professionals, there are a lot of people trying to find their way in the publishing world, and it's very mysterious. It's kind of veiled in this kind of cloak of, mist, and people aren't sure exactly which direction to go and what they need to do. So, I think this is really good for telling people, hey, these are the steps that you can take, and it doesn't seem necessarily as stressful as a lot of people make it out to be. I think that people get really caught up in, I'm submitting it to this publisher, like, wow, this whole piece hinges on them accepting it and them being able to distribute it properly. And it seems to me what you're saying is it's a lot more fluid than that. You have a lot more flexibility than what a lot of people might think.
Well, I think, especially with publishing, I do go around and give clinics on this because the process itself, it's simple, but people don't know it. So it is very mysterious to them. And then they don't, they're basically throwing darts and trying to see what sticks. And they have no idea kind of what's going on in the background. So I think number one, and this is true with anything, is do your research.
Hmm.
Number one, what kind of publisher do you want to be with? Which, and they don't always all publish the same thing. So they may publish different types of ensembles. So if you're doing something for choir and the publisher doesn't publish for choir, then you're going to waste your time if you're submitting that piece to them. So that may save you a
Right.
lot of work in the front if you do a bit of research. And then just kind of seeing what their need is. If you can fulfill what they're looking for, everyone has a problem, and if you can fulfill that problem, you're going to get a lot better chance of getting in there too, as opposed to just, trying to compete with everything else that, they have a mass, number of. So that's the biggest advice I would say.
Okay. Yeah, that is some great advice. So really doing your research and finding maybe a gap that publisher has, and then giving them a piece to fill it. That that's great advice all around for anybody looking to market anything, a product, a service. Do a gap analysis. That's what we call it in marketing. Find the gap for your market. What does that market need? And then create something to fill it. And that really helps to distinguish you from other people who just get in competition with everybody else. But now you have figured out how to solve a problem that people are facing. And off of that, so I've noticed that you post a lot on social media, and thank you, because you've also posted about us a lot on social media, and that's been very helpful. But what have you seen are the pros of really getting yourself out there on social media? What have you seen that has changed in your career or helped in your career with doing your personal branding on that social media?
Well, I think nowadays, it used to be if you Googled yourself and your name didn't come up, you didn't exist. Well, I think nowadays, if you are somebody that's trying to, be out there in some way, if you have a product or if you're kind of a public figure or if you're a celebrity or something like that, it's like everyone has to have a presence on social media, whether you like it or not. And so I kind of drag my feet out on it because I don't really like to be on social media as much as as you have to be. And I think I
Right.
probably don't do it as much as I should in order to kind of benefit from maybe some of the positive things that can come out of it. I definitely don't engage as much as I should on some of these, but I do definitely have a presence. Just it's a nice way to keep people updated and keep people kind of abreast of what's going on and where you're going to be, where you're going to be traveling, and it does help, I think, with some connections as far as people wanting to meet you or knowing where you're going or what event you're going to be at, that kind of thing. As far as my I think the nitty-gritty of how it's affected my career, I don't think it's really I haven't noticed a difference, but I don't it's kind of hard to know if you can, I don't know, measure that, I guess. So
Right.
I would say that it's kind of a necessary evil, and that's how I look at it, and I probably shouldn't look at it that way, but it's definitely something
Yeah.
that's easy to keep people, updated on what's going on.
Right. Right. And that makes sense. I know that we've had a few other people on the show where it's kind of it depends on when they've entered the market for whatever they're doing, but there's a chicken or an egg kind of question, which is if you have a really strong social media presence, will that bring you opportunities? Versus if you have a lot of opportunities and then you capitalize on social media, will that help you have a bigger social media presence? So that's kind of why I asked that question. Is sometimes there's which comes first, and in your instance, it's really the career came first. The social media is the side note.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. Oh my. Well, if anybody is watching and has any questions, we might have time for, one more or something like that. Thank you again, Kirk Vogel. Thank you again, Alyssa Youngval, my wife, Josh French, Phil, everybody watching. Thank you. We had a lot of viewers today, actually, kind of off and on, social media people tune in, tune out, tune in, tune out. So today was a great episode. We had a little bit of technical difficulty there at the beginning with my earpiece going out, but I have another one. So being prepared. And do you have any last advice for anyone watching for getting into a career or staying organized with a heavy schedule, or any creative advice for anybody who might need it this Thanksgiving, day after Thanksgiving?
Yes, I've been starting to talk and give speeches on the X factor, which is
Ooh,
one of those things where, everybody wants to know what it is and can we bottle it and can we recreate it and that kind of thing. And so, a couple things that I talk about in the X factor is number one, and we talked about this earlier, being authentic, being yourself, coming from a real place, being able to share kind of your vulnerability and your soul, and then having that
yep,
connection with your audience. So those are the two kind of most important factors, I think, when it comes to the X factor and being, having a hit or having something go viral or having, it's about somebody is looking at that and they're having that emotional connection with whatever it is that you have. So whether that's
emotional
a product
connection.
or right or a story or music or writing or something like that, if it's drawing people in and you're having that connection, that is going to make you go viral. And I think in order to get that connection, sometimes means you have to be willing to be vulnerable. So authenticity, integrity, vulnerability, I think are huge. And then, of course, all of the things that we've been taught, having discipline, practicing, training, being good at your craft, that kind of thing only helps those things.
Yep.
So those are my two big ones.
Wow. That's really fantastic advice. That is a theme we've seen is this authenticity. And I think that a lot of people get caught up on social media where, it's only the most produced, the best. We had a little bit of vulnerability today when my earpiece went out and we went, oh my gosh, and Phil's in our ears going, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. So thank you, Phil. And everyone watching, sometimes things don't go to plan, and that is completely fine, I think. But you can't pretend that it didn't go to plan. Like, you can't pretend that it was all fine. You have to tell people these kinds of things, and people will, in my experience, people actually connect more with your mistakes than they do your successes. So,
Yeah.
um, because everybody
Well,
goes through these mistakes. Yep.
that's another big thing I tell people is to take every opportunity that comes to you. If it's a good opportunity and it's not necessarily in your path or it's something that you don't think you want to do, take it. Just experience it. Experience as many things as you can because you never know where that's going to lead. And then also don't be afraid to fail because we grow a lot more when we have our mistakes. We fail probably more times than we're ever going to succeed. Those people that are the most successful have failed more times than most people have ever succeeded in their life. And so don't be afraid to experience those failures as well, because it's only going to make you grow that much faster. So those are the other big things.
Everyone, do not be afraid to experience failure. That's our quote for the show, and I think that's our time for the show as well. So thank you so much again, Soon Hee. You have really helped us quite a bit. Thank you to Bike Shop Agency, who is our production team. Thank you to Josh, who's here right now. Everybody, please like, subscribe, share. Remember, if you like and share within the next 48 hours, you could be chosen to get this gift set, which is T. Forte's Warming Joy. Again, thank you to Soon Hee, who suggested this. We are so excited. The information today was mind-blowing, and we will see you in 2 weeks for Soon Hee's husband, Aaron Michael Rettig, who is a legend in the film industry and the music industry. He has done so much, and we are really excited to have him. So until next time, thank you everyone, and thank you to Whole Brain Consulting, our sponsor. Na zdraví. Cheers. Thank you, Soon Hee.
Thank you.